Yo, welcome everyone back into Crypto's News. It is me, Omar Bam, aka Crypto, here to talk about what is happening in cryptocurrency today to make sure that you are on top of markets and action across the board in this industry. So we're gonna go ahead and dive right in. There are reasons to be bullish, actually, if you feel like the Fed might have to reverse course soon in order to fuel risk markets like cryptocurrencies and cause them to surge higher. And that is part of what's driving the price action today, although it started off somewhat negative. Right now, we're sitting at around 1.8%, 1.9% respectively up in prices for Bitcoin and Ethereum. You have Bitcoin at $19,556, and you have Ethereum at $1,320 a unit. The whole market cap for cryptocurrencies is down below $1 trillion still. Although I guess that could be changing if the Fed does reverse course, because while we started off the day negative based on some news coming out that the Biden administration here in the United States had been asking for a quicker advancement of cryptocurrency regulations. They want to know every single cryptocurrency platform's affiliates and subsidiaries so they can get a whole picture of cryptocurrency and regulate it. They want to be able to stop leverage or put limits of leverage on cryptocurrency. They want to be able to regulate stable coins and how they're issued. They want to regulate the spot market trading of cryptocurrencies and everything else. So I think that is initially what caused the prices to look like they were going to be heading down. But we had a reversal, of course, because the United Nations, it came out in a report on the Wall Street Journal initially, but now you can find it on The Guardian as well and other media sites. It came out that the United Nations is calling for leading nations around the world to stop hiking interest rates, such as the Federal Reserve here in the United States, because it's putting undue pressure on countries that were already suffering before the pandemic, emerging, developing countries like Sri Lanka, Zambia, and that even more pressure is being put on them in a situation that could lead to a recession that is unavoidable. It's still early enough, they're saying, although if you look technically, we have been in a recession. You have consecutive quarters of falling GDP, meaning recession, but they kind of changed the definition of recession here in the United States, the administration using double speak to just basically say a prolonged period of economic downturn. Very vaguely is what a recession is, not anything specific like two quarters of GDP going negative being a recession, which is what it was. So anyway, just trying to change the definition of what things are. But the United Nations still saying that for some reason a recession is avoidable, even though we're probably already in one. I guess that's debatable for you. And so they are calling for a reversal for the central banks to stop raising interest rates in a reckless gamble. So this is possibly the beginning of more and more pressure on the Federal Reserve and other central banks to reverse course. This follows what happened with the United Kingdom, right, where they had to announce a halt, for example, of tax cuts on the rich. They had to halt some of their more austere measures that they were putting in place because pension funds appear to be in a crisis. So they announced unlimited liquidity, basically, when they were supposed to be selling bonds this week. Now they're going to be buying unlimited amounts of bonds. And this is the kind of example of what could be breaking and causing issues. That is an example of what could be happening with the Federal Reserve coming up soon. And this would be something that I would imagine would push up risk assets like cryptocurrencies. Although they seem to have stopped falling a lot, maybe cryptos are sensing that we may be getting near the end here of hikes. Let me know what you guys think, of course. And in other news, you have Alex Mashinsky, the CEO of Celsius. It turns out that in May, so a month before June 12th, when Celsius froze withdrawals for their customers, it turns out that Alex Mashinsky, the CEO, at the time, he's since stepped down last week. He withdrew $10 million from the platform while still telling everyone that everything is fine. Even in the week leading up to the freezing of withdrawals, he was saying that no one was having issues with withdrawals, despite calls from a lot of people that there were going to be issues with Celsius and people withdrawing en masse starting in May. And Alex Mashinsky, the very CEO, while saying one thing on his weekly YouTube outings where he came out and talked about the company and tweets and everything else, despite saying certain things, his actions showed different, where he withdrew $10 million of his own money off of the platform. Although lawyers are saying that this is quite normal for him. He had $44 million deposited on the platform still when it got frozen, and $10 million was used in a huge amount to pay taxes and was not really an abnormal kind of withdrawal for him. But this is coming out according to sources who have been telling the media that basically Celsius is going to have to, in court, be showing a lot of documents talking about their finances, and this is part of what's going to be published, is that, and shared with the courts, is that Alex Mashinsky had withdrawn that $10 million. And obviously this is not the best kind of attention for Celsius to be getting in their favor, especially for Alex Mashinsky. It doesn't really make him look very good. So he might have been able to, I guess, make himself look good in certain ways. I mean, for example, in his letter stating how he was stepping down as CEO, he expressed that he was very sorry for people who were suffering because of the assets that were frozen, but this might not be looking good in his situation right now. But could very well be the case, I suppose, that he just, I don't know how you're a CEO and you don't know that your company is going under, but your customers are all getting ahead of you and doing that. You think you would start looking into your balance sheet and notice that there was a $1.2 billion plus hole in it before you had to freeze withdrawals at the time when people started this bank run on Celsius. There obviously were not going to be enough funds for everyone to withdraw, which is why they had to halt the withdrawals. They seem to be speeding up and cascading prior to the freezing of withdrawals. We'll see where that goes. Kim Kardashian, so she has millions and millions of followers, as you know, a celebrity, and she had been touting on Instagram, or Meta's Instagram, whatever you want to call it, a promotion for a token called Ethereum Max. I remember being at a crypto conference and seeing this Ethereum-like token, but it was a red logo versus the traditional colors that Ethereum uses, which is usually like gray or blurple. This was in red, so it just looked kind of sketch from the first place. It was not affiliated with Ethereum at all, but there was a promotion that was done for it by Kim Kardashian, where she was apparently paid $250,000 and did not disclose this to her fans. The SEC said that they require this disclosure if you're going to be promoting something, especially from like celebrities. It seems Gary Gensler even had a tweet, the head of the SEC, talking about how certain investments might not be right for everyone and disclosures do need to happen from celebrities and the like. It's interesting, like Peter Schiff has pointed out, that so many others, just people who aren't celebrities, promote cryptocurrencies even more and get paid a huge amount oftentimes, and they're not the ones the SEC goes after. But whatever. It's never really right to dump on your customers. I don't think necessarily that was what the intention was from Kim Kardashian, but it just looked like trying to make 250,000 quick bucks was the route to go, and she wasn't aware, I guess, that you had to do these disclosures. She certainly learned, because now she has been charged $1.26 million. Although it's nothing, because I heard she's worth like $1.8 billion. So this is basically a slap on the wrist for her. But still, it is, I think it's fair, considering she only made $250,000 from promoting this EMAX token, which I don't even know if that token ever even pumped. I don't know. I can't imagine that it got much traction. I don't really hear much about it besides in relation to her promoting it and that she was going to get in trouble for it at the time. But anyway, the SEC seems to have not liked it. They're charging her the disgorgement fees for what she was actually paid. So $250,000 plus $1 million in penalties, and a little bit more for interest from pre-trial interest or whatever. Although she never admitted either right or wrong doing in this, like either whether she did it or not, but she did settle with the SEC to avoid a prolonged period of investigation that it could have cost her a lot more, her having to turn over a lot more financial documents about herself in relation to that and other things. So it makes sense, of course, that she would settle and put it behind her, as she said, to go and pursue her many other businesses. I think she's going to be all right. And then in the other news was coming out last week was that there was a crypto influencer, YouTuber, Lark Davis. I believe I met Lark back in 2017, wild times at a conference. But yeah, he had remarked that he had watched my show, I believe, and really not much more. So I don't really super know him very well. But he has over 1 million followers on Twitter. He has like 667,000 followers or something like that on YouTube. And there was an account called Zac XBT, which on Twitter found his address. They found his, let me put the AC, it's getting kind of hot in here. Usually I try not to waste too much. The weather's all right for me. It's not too bad here in LA now. And so I try not to ride around with the AC unless I need it, but it is getting kind of hot right now, beaming on the car. But anyway, it turns out that this person, Zac XBT, had found his crypto address and started tracking it. He found it from an old a donation. When he had asked for donations on an old YouTube video, that account had been provided by Lark Davis, and also from an NFT that he had talked about. And it turns out there were over 8 different projects that Lark Davis, by looking at that address, Zac XBT had found that he probably dumped on his followers. He would not get paid for these cryptocurrencies like Kim Kardashian for promotion. As he said, he didn't really run ads. He instead would talk about these projects, shill them or whatever, get involved in buying the tokens himself, like in seed rounds or whatever, private placements, which was a huge thing back then, and then dump immediately after the project released. And some saying right on top, even like hours after the project released, right on top of all his followers, despite saying that he liked the project. If you like the project, then why would you dump it right away? It doesn't really align with what he's saying, as he's tried to refute some of these allegations that he was just dumping on his followers, and that he did disclose what he made. Apparently he did not disclose what exactly he was doing, nailing over $1.3 million plus from the totals that he was able to get when these tokens did pump, when they did finally list. What was notable about all of this is that apparently his Etherscan address, so Lark Davis's Etherscan, his address on Etherscan had been labeled as a pump and dump scheme. But now Lark Davis has apparently been moving all of his tokens off of that address and into an exchange, probably to eventually withdraw them to another address so that he doesn't have that label on himself as a pump and dump schemer. So never completely a dull day in crypto, or we see new kind of occurrences happening all the time. And I thought this was just a notable one. Although, of course, Lark Davis does refute that he hasn't told his followers and that he's always looking out for them. Zac XBT is refuting that himself and saying that you definitely knew what you were doing and you were dumping on them after shilling them, and you don't even like these projects. So anyway, that's pretty much the news for today as we start off our fine Monday. We'll see what comes from all of this. I imagine there will be mounting pressure on the Fed, indeed from others like the UN, especially with this coming out now. And it's not going to be politically nice if people are feeling so much pain. So I don't know. It's really I hear both sides of whether raising interest rates is going to be effective or not. I'm probably going to lean toward no, because they will not be able to raise them to the same levels that they did back in the 70s and 80s. Although that's what the Fed is trying to act like they're trying to do before something breaks, that is. And so this is just kind of posturing, and it is causing pressure either way. And there's probably going to be a reversal, whether sooner or later, so they might as well get on with it. Although it bites people either way when you have inflation. The UN, for example, said that inflation was likely a lot coming from supply crunches. It wasn't really demand. It was because of shipping issues, for example, still taking place. So I don't know. It's hard to believe anything that you read online because a lot of it is politicized and it does appear to be propaganda. But I just share with you guys what is going on, so hopefully you can find and form your own pictures out of what is going on to, again, do what is right for you and those you care about. It's important times to share this info and get it out there. So I appreciate you sharing the video, liking it, subscribing if you enjoy this kind of content, and letting me know how I can make it better for you. Take care, much love everyone, and stay cryptic. Peace.